Welcome to the Cutting Room Floor, a Southland Christian Church podcast. Each week, we sit down with our teacher to talk through what didn't make it into Sunday's sermon, thoughts, stories, or questions that got left on the cutting room floor, but still matter. No script, just real conversations that allow us to go deeper into last week's sermon. Thanks for being with us. Let's jump in.
Well, hey, everyone, and welcome to the Cutting Room Floor podcast. My name is Neil, and sitting across from me today is Scott Nickell. Scott, this has been
You got super nervous because I took a drink right as you were going to throw it.
Well,
to
yeah,
me.
This is that's the server tendency that I used to have.
Were you a server?
I was, but I ask people questions right before they take a bite of their food.
That's right.
But long time coming, man. We've been talking about this podcast for months. Yeah, long time. Also been talking about this series, coming up. We've been kind of teasing it out to the church for a while, and now we're finally in it.
Yeah, it was really cool. This morning was in my office, and I opened up my journal to do some of my study time and all that. And for whatever reason, it opened to a day from my sabbatical, and I was specifically praying about this series that we're starting today. So it was kind of cool just to kind of read through my thoughts from back in July and what I was praying about as I was literally getting ready to preach this first sermon. So yeah, it's been a long time coming. Been super excited about it. Kind of the heartbeat behind it, we talked about a while back, but just to catch anyone up was you get this a lot, I get this a lot, our staff get it a lot. People will come up to us and go, hey, when's women's conference? Or hey, when's men's retreat? Or when's when's marriage conference? And we've never made any promises that any of those things would be recurring. They've all been great for the most part, and they've all been good and helpful. Yeah. But my thought process and our thought process behind this was any given conference we do may get a few thousand people, and that's great, over the course of a couple days or whatever. But we won't know the numbers from this Sunday till Tuesday. But last Sunday we had 14,000 some odd people.
14 plus.
A good percentage of which are adults who are sitting in that room. And so the thought was, well, what if we just did the men's, women's, and marriage conference every Sunday for this fall? So first 4 weeks is men, next 4 weeks is women, 3 weeks at the end is marriage. And so that's our idea is we can make more of a dent with more people if we just make this our content. So we got to kick that off today. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. I was in the room, man. You brought it. I don't know how to say that except for it was like truth bombs after truth bomb after truth bomb after truth bomb. I'm sitting there listening to it going, what didn't you? I'm sitting there kind of going, oh, what was left on the cutting room floor, even just listening to
There's
it going,
plenty.
Okay, so let's get to that. As you were processing this, what you were able to do in 35-ish minutes.
I don't know. Did I get under 40?
It was close.
Does anybody know?
It was close.
I took a whole half a third of an illustration
out. You got under 40. I don't think we got to 35, which is fine.
I'm still sweaty and wet from the baptistry because we had 10 baptisms at the Nicholsville campus.
Cool.
Our last service. And so I had to hustle off stage because we only had one song and then wait in the line in the baptistry to get the 3 people I was baptized, and then hustle down here. But yeah, it was one of those things where even as I was preaching, I was like, hey, we're getting ready to have a party here at the end of this service, so don't anybody go anywhere. But yeah, good problems to have, man. And honestly, I kind of joked in the sermon about how, cue the Phil Collins drum solo. Yeah. You've been waiting for this moment your whole life. And then I said, I haven't. I've been doing this for a long time. Yeah. But this manhood, womanhood, marriage stuff has really been a big heartbeat of mine for a long, long time. Maybe that's because I come from, divorced home, and it's been a huge burden of mine for my whole life. I don't know what that's born out of. All I know is that there's plenty as I started thinking about the cutting room floor. And then when we ran through this and recorded this on Thursday, you guys are like, hey, man, your sermon's 40 some odd minutes. And I'm thinking through, what can I cut? I've already cut a bunch of stuff that I've got, kind of jotted down some notes here. Yeah. So, there's a lot.
Yeah. Well, take us through maybe some of the highlights that you have out of there to kind of go, here's what we left on the floor that we weren't able to hit.
Yeah, some dudes who are Christians and have been around the church world long enough may remember a dude named John Eldredge. He's still around, but the book that really put him on the map was a book called Wild at Heart. And it really had 3 components. And I read it, I think, in the late 90s, early 2000s, approximately. And he had 3 phrases, and it was, every man needs a battle to fight, an adventure to live, and a beauty to rescue. And I remember that doing 2 things in my heart and in my mind. One, it resonated with me, and then it deeply frustrated me. because all of his illustrations were about like, riding horses across the western frontier and sailing on ships. And if you're sitting in a cubicle and you're like, yeah, man, I need a battle to fight, an adventure to live, and a beauty to rescue, that can be super frustrating.
Sure.
Like, what does that look like?
Where's your horse?
And where's your horse, bro? I don't own a ranch in Colorado, So, so I've always resonated with that book and that premise. I think he's right. Every man does need a battle to fight. Every man does need an adventure to live, and every man does need a beauty to rescue. But the disconnect comes when you're like, hey, but what does that look like in real life? And so I almost went down that path.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing, and I might get to some of this in the series here in a couple weeks, but the biggest thing I want young men and old to know is the battle to fight, the adventure to live, and the beauty to rescue is right here in front of you. I don't care if you work in a cubicle, if you drive a garbage truck, whatever that is. Yeah. Primarily, that's going to be in the context of your family. And then the way that you decide to spend all those hours that aren't inside a cubicle or driving a garbage truck or whatever. And by the way, you can redeem those hours as well and be very missional and have the battle to fight and the adventure to live, even in what seems like the most mundane and boring of contexts. Yeah. So that's one area I would have gone down. The other was, and it's related, would be just a challenge to young men specifically, like to get married, make babies, and build a home. Yeah. Like that's the vision I have, and I think a lot of us have for the young men in our culture as we're seeing marriage get delayed more and more. Like you're considered kind of young if you get married in your late 20s now. I was 20,
Yeah, same.
You were young.
I was 20.
You were 20.
Yep.
My wife was 21. She's a cougar, so she had me she's like 9 months older than me. But that has changed and shifted a ton.
Yeah.
Like the average age for men is definitely, I think, around, I might get it backwards now, but it's approaching around the age of 30, if not above, for both men and women now. And I don't think that's good. I don't think that's to our favor. I think that's to our detriment. And I think a big piece of that is we've got young people who have parents and voices in their heads who are telling them to go achieve degrees and financial goals and self-sustaining financial ability before they go build a home. And that just delays a whole bunch of things that our hearts cry and yearn for, not the least of which is to be married, build a home, have babies, all that kind of stuff. And so I would just encourage people, like, if you think you're going to arrive at some magical day where you're now ready to be married or financially secure enough or whatever that is, come on, So I would love to shift that mindset in our church if we can. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, that first part there, you had talked a little bit about like, hey, you're maybe in your cubicle. I think we're at a stage, at least in culture, where we have like shunned the people who have simple, maybe boring lives, and we've glorified this. I'm going on this mass adventure, and I'm selling my house, and I'm owning a trailer, and I'm traveling and doing all these things. And then you've got people who are sitting back going, I'm being faithful. Is that okay? And that's like, hey, we got to encourage people to go, yeah, faithfulness is great. You mentioned in your sermon today, we've got a guy that you were talking to who was faithful with middle schoolers up through high school. That is a terrible time to be able to like have to be with boys.
Oh yeah, man. Right? Middle school's brutal. It's the only group of kids I never got paid to work with. I did children's ministry and high school ministry, college ministry, all that kind of stuff. Never middle school. Yeah. You got to be called to that, and that dude's called to.
And then he says, you know what? I'm done with that. That was great. I'm going to go back to kindergarten.
Reset the clock. And I said it, I think, in the first service. I don't know if I said it in the second service. This dude's in his 60s. He's going, man. Yeah, 12 more years. Sign me up.
13 years of investing into these students, these boys. Man, that is faithful, and that is boring, and that's messy, and that is the opposite of what we're trying to be, or what we're being told in culture right now. So I love that piece of it.
One of the trends, too, we see with young folks is even when they get married, sometimes they'll really delay having kids on purpose because there's a whole bunch of stuff they want to go do, a bunch of adventures they want to have, and a whole bunch of places they want to go. Hard for me to resonate because we were so dirt poor. We couldn't have gone anywhere. I mean, we couldn't have gone to Kings Island,
Yeah.
So we just started making babies early. Yep. I heard someone say once, and they were talking about a female comedian who posted something on Instagram. I'm not on any social media unless you count YouTube. And she posted this picture of herself in a hot tub smoking a joint and talking about how awesome it was that she didn't have any kids because she got to do stuff like this. And she was, I don't know, she was in like Aspen or Vail or something. And the commentator's response I thought was brilliant. He said, take out the smoking the joint part.
Sure.
The sitting in the hot tub in a really fancy place up in the mountains relaxing is supposed to happen after you've done something.
Yep.
And you haven't done anything. You're just sitting in a hot tub smoking a joint. It's kind of like what I talked about in the sermon, the flip-flops and the boots. Like those flip-flops feel great, but they feel especially great after I've had those work boots on.
Yeah.
And I took this out of the sermon, cutting room floor.
Yeah.
I had another pair of shoes in my original illustration of weightlifting shoes. You know about this because you lift weights. If you want to go back squat 300 pounds, you don't need to be in some cushy flip-flops. You don't need to be in, you need stability. So there's weightlifting shoes for that. If you're going to take on responsibility and put weight on the bar, you got to put those things on. Well, those things are uncomfortable, man.
Oh, yeah.
I don't walk around in those things.
You wear them purely for the weightlifting. You take them off. Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
Years ago, CrossFit tried to create these hybrid ones I got where you were supposed to be able to run and do box jumps in them too.
With the little wedge in the back?
No, thank you.
No way.
No, they were terrible.
No way.
They were terrible.
That's funny. So you had this moment. I mean, unless you have anything more on the cutting room floor, I got a couple questions. I just was, as I'm listening to and I'm kind of reflecting on your message. One, you touched on it, the beating of the drum coming, part of that was where did that come from for you? Like that's been the thing you've done for 27 years.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there going, why?
Yeah, I think it probably has to do with my parents were divorced.
Sure.
I think the other thing is in doing ministry, I've been standing in the stream with all the garbage floating towards me.
Yeah.
So literally what we do in ministry is we're cleaning up, doing cleanup duty. And at some point you start to realize like, man, a lot of these issues we're dealing with come back to fatherlessness. Mm-hmm. They come back to a man who's abdicated his responsibility, a man who either maybe he's there, but he's not engaged in the hearts and minds of his wife, his kids, his family. Maybe he's the proverbial Homer Simpson, Al Bundy, just sits on the sofa. And there's major ramifications for that. Or he's not there. There's divorce that's happened, there's abandonment that's happened, death, whatever it may be. And so I really came to believe that, the upstream issue in our culture, all the stuff we throw money at, all the stuff we try to create policies for, literally go away if men will just do what they're called to do. Yeah. And 20-something years into ministry, that hasn't changed. I wish it would,
Have you seen that across, the 27 years? Just go, okay, when that happens, you can see it like tangibly within your life when you work with fathers and those things, like how those improve.
Yeah, I've seen the good and the bad. Yeah. So, man, you watch when a man decides, okay, I'm going to show up and start serving my wife, my kids. I'm going to stop with the 12 hobbies.
Yeah.
I've preached here before. I'll preach it again. You get one, bro. Come on. At least until those kids are grown,
right? Yes.
Like get one, and then it's on the table for negotiation. Like if something's on fire in your house with your family, put that down for a little while, and then maybe you can pick it back up. But be done with those hobbies and take that time and invest that in your kids. Mm-hmm. Invest that in your wife. The benefits, like, man, women most of the time when their husbands come back and humbly re-engage, and the key word is humbly. Yep. Don't make speeches. Don't make proclamations. Just start serving your wife and re-engaging with her. The response is almost always, not always, but almost always, this is great. Mm. He's actually leaning in. He's communicating. He's talking. He's serving. He's asking questions. Very rarely is it like the response of shaming or how dare you. Now, if you don't do that humbly and you've been sitting on the sidelines for 20 years and you just show up one day and make a proclamation, I'm going to be the servant leader of my home.
Right.
Thus saith me. Everybody's going to look at you and go, huh? Who are you? You've been on the sofa for 20 years. Totally. So, we see both sides, the downside and the improvement when men engage their hearts with Jesus, humbly submit, and then begin to serve. Yeah.
Another part, you put Allie on blast saying that she was the one who maybe had the issue and Jesus was coming to your house, and you set up this scenario where he comes in, knocks on the door, say, "Oh, hey, Allie, good to see you." And it's really, you're thinking, if you're sitting there going, well, yeah, he's coming to talk to Allie. And he goes, no, I want to talk to Scott. And then that was it. And you're like, me and Jesus are going to talk for a few minutes, and then Allie's going to come out. And there's still responsibility that has to be taken for Allie. But I'm sitting there in the room, I'm going, what is Jesus saying to you out on that patio?
Yeah, I mean, if you look, and I've actually got it open right here, but like if you look at Genesis 3, God he talks to Adam first, but he gets to Eve.
Yeah.
So I mean, he speaks to the serpent, then he speaks to Adam, and then he speaks to Eve. He covers the bases of responsibility, but he starts by calling to Adam. And you're totally right. Like, it's very rare that I'll use an illustration where Allie's like the negative, you know what I mean? And the part I joked about it being fictional. Yeah. Also, I've used it for like 20 years, and so she's aware of the illustration, so I didn't have to ask her permission for that one. And everybody laughs because they know,
Right.
But yeah, what's happening there, I think a couple things. I think Jesus is going to say, hey, bro, the temperature of your home is your responsibility. So, like, if you feel like your wife is fill in the blank, maybe she's volatile, losing her temper, yelling at people, that may not be all your fault, but where are you taking responsibility to address the issue in her heart that's manifesting that kind of an action and that kind of response?
Yeah.
And in fact, it might be passivity, like, hey, man, you're just sitting around while she's just throwing grenades at everybody, and you've got to step up and say, this is not okay. What's going on? Or is she responding to something in you that you're doing that you're unwilling to address, and she's sinfully responding to it, So I think Jesus could take that any number of directions. What else is going on in your home right now? Are you guys just too flustered all the time? Mm-hmm. Have you taken on too much? Are you trying to do too much? Are you telling your wife she's got to become the glorified shuttle driver for everybody in the home, and maybe that's why she's frustrated and angry, sad, depressed? There could be a number of reasons for that, and I think Jesus would go down that path.
Yeah. So I equate this a little bit. You talked about it really at the end of your sermon with the upstream. Right? What you just talked about, and what I wanted to get into a little bit for our listeners here, is going upstream is not as simple as, well, I was just mad. Okay.
Why?
That's the question that I think we stop at. We stop at going, well, I owned it. I'm mad. Yeah, but there's a deeper reasoning for you to be mad, and you got to get to that if you ever think you're going to be able to go upstream. And we stop. We stop there. So how can that work inside of someone, right? One of your challenges was identify one area where you're passive, write it down, tell someone, ruthlessly eliminate it. But how are we ever going to be able to get upstream if we're not able to actually own it? How do we do that?
Yeah, and when you're angry specifically, you're probably not going to be able to do it while you're angry, especially because you've not figured out why.
Right.
So when you're not angry, it's worth asking yourself the question first, why is it that I always find myself losing my stuff when? What's that actually about? Okay, so I've given this illustration before. I've told this story of on Christmas, I'm building a basketball goal in my garage because it's snowing like crazy outside. It's a portable basketball goal. It's a nice one. I bought it for my kids. I've had visions of like, this is going to be awesome. We're going to play ball and all this kind of thing. Allie's inside sick with the flu, with a fever, Christmas Eve. And I decide, despite the fact that this says assembly required must have at least 2 to 3 people.
You got this.
I got this.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm not handy. I'm not like you. I can't fix stuff. I can't build stuff. And I hate it every time I try.
Yep.
But I try because there's something in me, literally, that's screaming, if you can't even get this basketball goal put together for your kids on Christmas, here's the deal. What kind of man are you? What kind of dad are you?
Yep.
So I'm responding to that message by going out into the garage, trying to do something on my own that nobody's asked me to do. Everybody in the house is fine, loving Christmas, except my wife who's sick. I go out there and try to do it myself, and I just literally ruin Christmas for everybody because I'm just throwing stuff around, mad and yelling.
Yep.
So what's that actually about? That's actually about the fact that I'm deeply insecure that I don't know how to fix things and put things together, and that makes me feel like less of a man. And instead of addressing that issue, it comes out sideways on the people that I love most.
Yeah.
Now, it took a lot of people, a lot of time and effort with me to help me figure that out.
Yeah.
So, and I could give a half dozen more examples, but the thing to challenge men around is, hey, you got something like that in your life, and it's coming out sideways on the people you love the most.
Yeah.
And you better figure out why.
Yeah.
Because, and I use this old illustration I stole from Andy Stanley years ago with the two Mr. Mugg and Mrs. Mugg, and they had the beads in them, and they get married and they have this fight and this stuff comes out of them. They say this and she does that. Why? Because that's what's in there. That's what Jesus said.
Yeah.
This comes out of you because that's what's in you. And if you don't want to address it, it's going to keep coming out of you.
Yeah, that's good. So I think, we've released this. We will release this on Wednesday. So if you're listening to this, it will be a few days after the message.
Yeah, this is Sunday, and I'm still sweaty from preaching the sermon, and I'm spitting all over you. This is as raw and real as it gets.
This is as raw and real as it gets. That's what we're looking for. So it's midweek now. Okay, you've had a few days. If you're listening to this, you've had a few days to identify that one area where you're passive. Now, if you've been passive about this and you've gone, oh, yeah, I'm going to do that, but you haven't done it yet, let this be a reminder, do it. And two, if you're like, I'm not sure exactly what that is, I think as an example of what you just said is, if you have something recurring in your life, whether it's, I just get mad about the smallest, weirdest things, or name whatever that is, that's where you need to go attack that.
Yeah.
That's the place.
And I didn't say this in the sermon, probably should have. Ask.
Yeah.
Ask somebody. Where do you
if you're
see me being
married,
passive?
your wife knows.
Oh, yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. If you really want to be brave, you really want to gird up your loins, brace yourself like a man, go home and ask your wife, where do you see me being passive?
Yeah.
Write it down.
And then you've got to do something about that.
Yeah,
you have to be able to attack that. So, man, anything else on this?
No, I think we're good.
Good.
Man.
I'm excited for the rest of this series. It's going to be really good. So, if you missed Sunday, make sure to go back and listen to it. Otherwise, what we just talked about probably is not going to make a ton of sense. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast. You can listen to it on anywhere that you listen to podcasts. You can watch it on YouTube. Subscribe, leave a comment, do all those things for us, just so that we can help get this out in front of more people. The goal in this is that people grow. And they grow deeper in their relationship with Jesus, and this is one of the ways that we're doing that. So thanks for being here with us today on the Cutting Room Floor podcast, and we'll see you, or you'll hear us next time.